that reminds me of like rapping. Like something that people don't know about me unless they've done it with me is I'm really good at freestyle rapping.
Really?
Like I can go a cappella, put on a beat, and I'll
Ooh,
just go.
I
And
love that.
right, but when I try to sit there and like write a song or write a rap, it doesn't work at all. Like I have to just do it. And that's how it,
Mm,
yeah, that's how it flows
that's
out of
interesting.
me. Yeah. And I think that's because when I try to actively do it, I'm using too much of my mind. I'm really like
Okay.
overdoing the process.
Yeah.
Whereas when I just freestyle, it's like I'm a channel that's coming from a
You're in the
higher place. And
flow.
just exactly,
You're in the flow. Absolutely. Yep.
exactly.
Such a great reminder.
Hmm.
Such a great reminder.
So this is the intro.
This is the intro. Okay. I love
Yeah,
it.
this is it.
I love it.
Yeah. Something has been kind of on my mind that you mentioned a couple days ago,
Okay.
and it kind of leads into why we're doing this and everything. And it was after we watched the Source documentary
Mm-hmm.
by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and we watched that in the Inner Circle, which is Rook's group. And afterwards, you went live on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and you were speaking about there had been times in the past when you had been called to make a change, but it wasn't the same. You didn't, you heard it, but you didn't feel it. And so you didn't make that
Mm-hmm.
change.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that point led me back to a video you did, I believe, 2 weeks ago or last week about divine timing. And so what I've been thinking about, and I wanted to hear your take on it, is what makes the times that you moved different than all the other times that you heard and you didn't do that. You didn't make any change. And I already see your wheels turning. To add a little bit of context in that, 2020, I would say, is when I made the biggest change in my life. When I started the step of many steps, this journey of mine to really
Mm-hmm.
evolve and grow and become the best version of myself. And I went plant-based. I started doing yoga, and I was just like discovering all these new beautiful things about life. And more recently, as we've talked about, because I think I've like known you and actually had conversations with you for the past 2.5 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've seen kind of some of the ups and downs and everything. And not to say that I thought this life would just be rainbows and stars or anything, but most recently, most recently, I've had one of the biggest, I don't want to call it a setback, but maybe gone off the path that I don't even want to call it that because we're always on our
Expected.
paths. Expect exactly than I
Mm-hmm.
expected. And so now I found myself at this place and I'm like, did I go all the way back to 2020? Of course I didn't. But I want to get into the change when it's time to make a change and what kind of impacts our minds to say, okay, it's time to actually move. I cannot wait any longer.
Right. Right. It's such a good question. Right. And what you were referring to is me reflecting back over the last years of, because we always know, like, people say, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't know. That's the thing. I didn't know. It's like, but you had signs. The signs were there. The urgings are there. The pulling, the tugging is there. The tapping is there. So as I reflected back, I remember I get snapshots of exactly where I was when I would look out of the window, or I'd be laying in the bed at night looking at the ceiling, or I'd be looking over at the wall, and that would be the thought, what are you doing?
Mm.
What are you doing? How long are you going to do this? or I could be, or a memory of me doing something that brought up so much tension. And it would be the thought, how long are you going to do this? How long are you going to live like this?
Mm.
How long? And it was, I don't want to say it was fleeting, but it was. It's just like, okay, that could happen. And then you go back to just doing life. You go back to doing life.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I think what happens is at a certain point, the soul says time is up.
Mm.
Right? It's, and that's that force that none of us can really pinpoint exactly what it is. It's something that we should feel good about, trusting that you're going to get where you need to be when you need to be there. Because when I was talking about divine timing, the question is like, okay, if I was waiting on divine timing and the divine was giving me signs that it was time and I chose not to move, then was I waiting on divine timing? Because I like how Bashar puts it. He says, when you're doing things and you're caught up in situations that you're unaware of, that's the program at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, the moment you become aware of it, it becomes a choice.
Mm.
So I chose. So then I started reflecting, like, okay, well, why did I make that choice?
Right.
Obviously, because I thought it was the right choice to make. Now I shift into the mind. The ego mind says, what do you think? Come on, shake it off. Shake it off, right? Spirit has already said, like, you're, because divine mind is always at work. It's like, are we in alignment with divine mind or are we not? That's when we start to notice the tension.
Right.
When people say, well, I don't know, well, what decision I should really make. Because I'm so glad you brought this topic up, because I was thinking about coming back to divine timing, right? Divine timing, divine timing. All right, are we really in control of this thing or are we not?
Mm.
And to what degree, to what extent? So it's like you have the choice to decide right now what you want to do, right? You could be thinking about moving somewhere. You could be thinking about taking another job. Your own free will, can decide that that is where I want to go. And you can actively manifest that, draw that into your experience, right?
Mm.
The question becomes, is that in alignment with your higher mind? If it's not, when you, let's say you say, I want to move to Texas, when you get there, you're going to be like, nah, this is not what I thought, right? It's not, you referring back to your last few years. You have made some changes, you've chosen to do certain things, and what have you come to realize? That this ain't it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I could venture here for a bit, take a step here. It ain't it. Was it a wrong choice? Was you off your path? No. No, because guess what it was? It's like we got this straight line, right? Or maybe I should do it this way, a straight line like this. So you could jump from here to here. That's what a quantum leap is. You just hop from, I decide this reality that I'm in no longer works for me. All right, boom. I take a quantum leap. I put up no resistance, means I have no doubtful thoughts. I'm not entertaining anything that causes unrest or fear. I can leap right into it. People do it all the time. However, for many of us, right, instead of going here to get here, right, let's say here, we do this. There's this here.
Mm-hmm.
We
Right.
still gonna end up, right? You see what I'm saying? Like you're still going to end up at the same spot, but the path of least resistance was to venture off a little bit. You had too much resistance,
Yeah.
too much lack of confidence in yourself and your
Mm.
own ability. Like your self-concept didn't support you taking that leap all the way.
Right.
Because
Right.
you could like, you know what? I knew I was actually supposed to go to Paris. I was actually supposed to go to California, but the path of least resistance says go to Texas first.
Mm.
That's what you was willing to, oh yeah, that feels good. So you
Mm-hmm.
got there and you found out that only provides you clarity that this
Right.
ain't really where I want to be either.
Exactly. Almost
So
like
was it
a.
wrong?
Mm-mm.
you see, you see how it's all still you at work.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't go backwards. Like even if you feel like you fell back into certain habits and certain mindsets and thought process, you can't go backwards.
Right. Right. And as you spoke about it, I'll keep on with that example of like going to Texas, and you get to Texas and you're like, wait a minute, no, this is not it. At that point, a lot of things happen. At that point, some people may say, oh, I'm off my path. This is wrong. I'm not supposed to be here. And within that mindset, they can create way more problems because they
Mm-hmm.
might rush and say, oh, I'm taking the next plane to Paris when maybe they're supposed to sit within that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle with the word supposed to, because what does that even mean? But I kind of want to talk about what causes us, instead of going from point A to point B and doing those quantum leaps, what causes us to do the zigzag, or what causes us to do the curve or take extra stops. And I know one thing that you mentioned was we don't fully believe, our mindset does not support where we're going or where we claim to believe we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. And for me personally, one thing that really impacts me is the logic, my mind getting in the way. So, for example, I'll go back to the Texas example. Me, when I get to Texas and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be in Paris or something like that. And my mind says, wait, well, how much is the ticket to Paris? Maybe you should wait a couple months when the ticket is a little bit cheaper. What is the weather going to be like in Paris? Maybe you should wait until it's warmer. And it starts to do all of that. And a lot of times, all of that chatter and that logic, it almost overpowers what my heart is calling me to do,
Mm-hmm.
that soul calling.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, just as you spoke about, as Bashar puts it, when you recognize it, when you recognize the programming, then you're tasked with what are you going to do about it per se, or what are you going to do with this new information? And so before I, it was honestly before the pandemic, because that's what really caused this big ripple effect in my life.
For a
I
lot of
feel as,
people.
yes, definitely. And that's a whole nother video in itself. But I feel as though back then, when I was not conscious of it, I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear my inner voice. I wasn't aware of it back then. So, what are your thoughts on, does that logic cause us to go back into a place where we cannot hear, or maybe we just have a hard time deciphering that?
Well, you summed it up. It's the mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ego mind. See, law of assumption says it comes down to whatever you assume.
Mm-hmm.
If you assume that when I hear the call of my heart and my spirit and I move, that it's done, that I'm covered, that I'm taken care of, that I can't go without, it can't be too risky, it can't be too dangerous, it can't be too soon. It's impossible for me not to have enough resources to do that. If that doesn't come into play, you leave.
Mm-hmm.
But when the mind factors in, what does this look like? I promised my mother I was going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I'm not really prepared. How am I going to sustain myself? Right? I have other people depending on me. Now the mind is factoring in, while this is not the wisest move. You need to figure out how to plan for this to go successfully.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's what we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? But again, if it's the whole idea of when Neville Goddard talks about thinking from the end, like if you get divinely inspired and you decide that it's done, it's done, it's done. And everything that you do is in direct relation and correlation with that
Mm-hmm.
point blank period. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's the mind always that we're wrestling with. It's the thoughts. Again, coming back to law of assumption, law of expectation. What is it that you're thinking? The moment that you get clarity that this is the go, this is the move right here. What do your thoughts say? What comes up? Like, what do you think about after you put it out there, after you initially get excited, after you initially feel so inspired and so like, ooh, okay, what comes up after that? That's the only thing that a wavering mind is
Mm,
the only thing that can delay you.
right.
It's when I take my attention off of that and it's on the possibility that this could not go the way I think.
Mm,
This could be, I posted something this morning from out of the A Course in Miracles, and it said the only reason that you're in an impossible situation is because you believe it's possible to be in one.
mm. Wow.
You got to believe that it's possible to be in an impossible situation. You got to
Mm-hmm.
believe that it's possible to be in a hopeless situation, to
Right.
be in a lonely situation, to be in a lacking situation. You coming back to the mind every freaking single time.
Every
Like, I don't
time.
care how many scenarios we talk about and how we try to deviate and back and forth, it's going to always come back to you in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Where am
Mm-hmm.
I at? Am I in alignment with higher mind, divine mind? And then if I can see that all things works together for my good, I don't really trip about the
Mm,
detour, so to speak. I'm not tripping because everything works for my good. So my task is to see the good in this for me, coming back to the Texas example.
mm-hmm.
When you said, okay, should I just be trying to hurry up and get to the next spot? Or should I really be saying, okay, I'm supposed to be here? What is the lesson in me for me right now?
Mm,
What's the blessing in this for me right now? If I could stop wrestling with the world, if I could stop fighting with life and say everything, this is my universe, so everything is working on my behalf. I can't get it wrong.
right.
Like everything is sitting here like this my army. They all waiting for a command. They like this. Tell us what
Mm,
to do, how to support you. What do you need? So if I could think in my mind that everything is saying this is what you needed in some way or another.
mm-hmm.
This is where you need to be for some reason or another.
Right.
I can't not get where I'm going. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can't be cut off from it. I even reflecting back, because I like to reflect and all that is fine and well. Over those, like, damn, what was it? Like you heard it, but you knew, look in your inner of inner, you knew. Obviously, I wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready to give up the ghost. I wasn't ready to completely surrender to completely not, and I kind of cringe as I think about saying this, like to not care what it looks like, because a lot of us get to the point where we're like, nah, we don't care. No, you do. You care.
Mm-hmm.
We care what it looks like. And it's less about what it looks like to the world. It's more about what it looks like to us.
Mm,
We expected it to look a certain way.
right.
We expected it to go a certain way. It's us letting ourselves down. I thought you was better than this. I thought you was a fighter. I thought you was a winner. I thought you didn't do stuff like that. I thought you didn't deviate or throw in the towel. I thought you, that's what you wrestling with. It's the inner warfare that I had this plan because I'm the one and I got it and I'm on the right track and I'm saying my affirmations and this and that, and it all blows up in my face. That's what they refer to as the ego death.
Mm,
Oh my God, it's so good. And I used to debate like, okay, I don't know if it's the ego dying. Like I don't like the idea we need the ego, it serves its purpose, but after experiencing it, oh no, it's a death. It's about understanding what death is. Death is a change in form.
Mm-hmm.
And that ego, which was in the driver's seat, which was acting as the master, now has to change in form of the slave. You serve me now.
Right.
I need you now. I got a role for you. So I'm not getting rid of you. Or I can't experience life in the physical without the ego mind. But you can no longer be the master anymore. So I
Right.
tell you, you don't tell me. And so I think that that's the biggest piece in all of this is, what is my mind doing? It's my mind telling me that I'm running out of time. It's my mind telling me that I'm off track. It's my mind telling me that I'm off the path. It's my mind telling me that I'm getting it wrong, that I'm just making mistake after mistake after mistake. Versus, baby, I'm closer than I've ever been. I'm
Yeah.
closer than I've ever been. I
Mm-hmm.
can't get it wrong. The universe holds no ill will to me. I hold no ill will to it. It's at my beck and call.
Right.
It's waiting to hear from me. Everything is me pushed out. This is a mirror. If I don't like what I see in the mirror, I don't try to, I got on red lipstick, but I'm on the mirror trying to put, I want it to be pink. No, change it here, sucker.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's being reflected.
Right.
So as long as I know that, then I know, okay, it's on me. It's
Right.
on me.
Right. And it's so beautiful in hindsight when I think about because I I've lived a mostly nomadic lifestyle for the past 4 years. And my family at first, they were like, "You're crazy. You need to sit down
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. Why do you keep moving around?" I said, "Because my spirit is calling me to. I go where I'm called to go." And they were like, "Well, what's calling you?" I'm like, "God."
Mm-hmm.
Because I had to put it in something that they would
Mm-hmm.
understand and relate to. Um, these days I don't really care if I'm related to or not, but
Right, right.
but sometimes I didn't know why I was going to a certain place until I left
Mm-hmm.
that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember early on, it was the second city that I had traveled to after I decided to, stay traveling. And that's when I experienced, I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like there was this, like I was wearing like a fat suit that just had all this extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the extra stuff felt like titles, expectations from other people, opinions of other people, just so much that was not me. And I've gone through this process a couple of times where it's like this shedding process. And it definitely felt like a death. It was scary because
Mm-hmm.
I felt so much going away from me that I'm like, wait a minute, am I gonna like what am I going to have on after this? Almost like when Adam and Eve ate ate the apple and they're like, oh, I'm naked. And it's like this fear of being naked because before you didn't know. So now you just feel so exposed. And when I think about it, it's just there's so much beauty in coming to the realization that everything is truly working out for my good. And when you start to shift your mind, that's when you start to see all the signs that are supporting you and you realize that, like you said, there's no ill will. But I think back to the times when I just felt so heavy in it. And I would say, even within the past couple months, when I was just so deep in it. And I did have times where I would be maybe looking out the window or outside, just breathing in fresh air. And it's like this clarity that would come up of, this is not where you're supposed to be right now. This is not what feels good to you. What changes are you going to make? And sometimes it might be a few things that I would change, but then I would go right back into it. And at times I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just not actually ready. As much as I want to say I'm ready to go, maybe I'm just not ready. And I've been a curious person since I was born. So I always am like, why? What's the reason? What's the root? Where is this coming from? And kind of trying to turn everything around. So I'm constantly, within this kind of balancing act between I don't want to overanalyze, but I also don't want to put no thought to it at all. But honestly, that's where the magic is when you're not really thinking and you're just allowing that to come in. So I know something that recently we've spoken about is rewiring of the brain, and reading breaking the I thought it was right here, but it's not. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. Something that really resonated with me was when he spoke about how our brain actually wires together for the habits that make up our personality. He breaks down personality as being a personal reality. And so when I was deep within this darker space or hole or whatever we want to call it, um, I felt like I was stuck there.
Mhm.
And as I read that book, I read a part that talked about, okay, well, if you're used to feeling guilt and shame all the time, then your brain will, and I know I'm not saying this all scientific, but your brain will adapt to being like that. It will wire itself to feel guilt, to feel shame. When you start trying to rise out of that, when you begin the process of rising out of that, it gets very uncomfortable, because now you're not in alignment with what your brain already set itself to do. So your brain is like, come on, what are you doing? This is the time that we usually feel sorry for ourselves and eat a pack of Oreos or something. And you're fighting up against that to rewire. And when I read that, I just had like an aha moment, like, that's why it feels so hard. Even when you know that this is not where you're supposed to be, even when you know that you're better than this, or that you can make better choices, the actual process of doing that is not always easy. So we know that the brain and our minds, how we think, impacts it. And now we know that there's also literal brain connections that do that as well. So if you can take us back to, and I know you've talked about this a few other times, but I want you to kind of reiterate, when you uh back at the time when you told yourself enough is enough, how did it feel when you first started making changes in your life?
I laugh because um hell, I'm just being honest. Like it it was like the dam bursting. Out of all the little scattering, all the little nudging, it was like it had been collecting. It had been collecting. And all of a sudden, it's like the soul was saying, time's up. And it just thrust it all. Like it was no longer denying it. It almost felt like I was no longer being given the choice. When
Mm,
in actuality, I'd already chosen.
yes.
Right? You have to already at a soul level already chosen, but it felt like it doesn't matter what your mind says now. Like we're overriding that physical mind. You cannot stay where you are. You can't. You must move. And that's all I kept hearing. I kept hearing move, move. It's time. And I didn't know when you start talking about like major changes in your life, it's like what does that even look like? There was no plan. There was no strategy. It was totally insane. That's oftentimes when you want to know when your spirit is really was really speaking to you. If it make a lot of sense, I don't know. But when it started to just be absolutely insane, like what are you thinking about? Like what are you doing? But in that moment, the pressure, I couldn't I couldn't deny it anymore. And I found myself very emotional. Like I'd just be walking in the kitchen and all of a sudden just tears. Like so much energy was coming into my body. Like it was all this dense energy gotta go. Cause we moving up, we going up, we're elevating. And vibrationally, you are shifting. And I think that's so important to remember that when you vibrationally shift, whatever lower energies whatever lower places that you're in, whatever lower people you're around, it can't coexist anymore. It can't. And where the hell came in was after that initial, like, I know what I got to do. The mind kicked back in. What does this look like? You don't want, if any of your decisions affect other people, you now start factoring that, right? I don't want how my decisions going to affect someone else. And what are they expecting of me? And what did I tell them that they could expect from me? And now this is going to look like I'm reneging on that to some degree. And how does this physically, financially, like, how does this all make sense? So it was a ripping and a tearing, and this is why it is referenced as like the dark night of the soul, where we don't have to try to call it, like reframe it into something that feels or sounds nicer. No, it was absolutely hell. It was the closest I've ever felt. I don't know what dying is like physically, but I died physically, because it is everything that the Bible references. When you read Revelation and hear about hell, you start to elevate, it's not talking about a physical place. This is what you experience on the inside. It's a gnashing, it's a burning, it's agonizing, and it feels like it's forever. It feels like you can't find a way out, like you barely surviving. And if you still got to interact with life and interact with people, it's you feel like you're losing your mind. Mm. And that's what it felt like, which I think is good, because that's when you find, like, you get left with this choice. So it seems like the choice was made for you. You come back into your physical mind and experience all of this hell, and it's like the choice reappears again. What you gonna do? You gonna stay here in hell and suffer, or you gonna move? Still come back to you, because you can decide, I'm gonna try to go against. I'm gonna try to go against. I'm gonna try to make it what it's not. I'm gonna try to stay where I'm not supposed to be, and I'm gonna try to fix things that I'm clearly being guided to move beyond. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're
That's
saying.
when ish get real, and there's nobody to call. I need you to know, this is how you're gonna know that you really in the thick of it. There ain't nobody to call. There's nobody to consult with. There's nothing to do, literally, but kind of to surrender. There's a surrender, and how I look at surrender different from letting go, even though they're one and the same. But the surrender is when you stop fighting. It's like you got weapons, you got your fists up, and you just, all right, I ain't gonna throw no more punches. I ain't tussling no more. But the letting go is when you drop the weapons. See, when I surrender and I'm still holding on to my weapons, I'm still in defense mode, just in case. Right? I ain't fighting, but I'm still ready to fight. The letting go is, I ain't got no more fight. Like, complete vulnerability. That I'm turning this over. Like, if I really believe that I'm divinely guided, and my soul is confirming to me that I must shift, that it is time. It's a wake-up call, because that's really all it is. It's a soul awakening. There's a rising, there's a shifting in consciousness that's happening. And so if I'm saying that I believe and I'm guided by that at all time, I'm allowing that to be my anchor, that to be my guide, then I'm going to trust in that with everything. I'm going to trust in it with everything and see where it takes me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Ooh. That was personal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. Especially being that, like I said, just like the past couple months, I've had times where I knew I needed to surrender, to certain things and release certain things. But like you said, I kept trying to fix it, trying to patch up the wall when I knew that the foundation was rotten. Still trying to build up and put some tape right here, and maybe if I put some foil over this, then it's going to. And that's when it got the worst of the worst. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw myself just running in this hamster wheel, and I would watch myself because there's a certain point where you become the observer even when you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like, what was that movie? Clockwork, or I don't, there's this movie where they're forcing people to watch something. They have this device that keeps their eyes open, and
Eyes
they,
open. Yeah.
yes. And it's like you don't want to see the things anymore, but you can't go back. um I believe it was Dick Gregory in the glasses. Do you recall the?
I was just about to bring that up when you finish.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you remind me of the three? I think there's three rules.
Yes. So he said, when the universe chooses you,
Mm,
and you can look at that any kind of way that you want. Some church folks look at it as being anointed. Some look at it as being chosen. I look at it as those who yield to the call. We get all calls. Some of us don't decide to pick up. We
mm.
just, you know what I'm saying? We decide not to answer. So he said, when the universe chooses you and you put on the magic glasses, there's three rules. He says, one, you can never see things the way they're supposed to be. You can only see things the way they are.
Mhm.
Two, you can never force anybody else to put them on. And then three, you can never take them off.
Right.
You
Oh,
can never
that
take them
part.
off, sucker.
And I was over here like, because I didn't want to see anymore. I wanted to take them off so I could just, you know. And the thing is, I never truly had the intention of going back to how I was, but I just wanted some relief
Yeah.
because heavy is the head that wears the crown. And I was just like, dang, can I take this crown off for a little bit? It's getting kind of heavy. My head is itching. Like, I just wanted some
Mm-hmm.
relief. I didn't want to be tasked with such a great thing as
Yeah,
my
you don't
life.
want it. And I think I'm so glad you brought that up because it makes me think of it's really the opposite of what people think, right? When we start looking at society and we see certain people doing certain things, and certain people seem to be really good at stepping forward and taking the lead and following dreams, visions, purpose, all of that. Here's what you come to find out. Those who really are called to step into that thing don't want it.
Mm,
They go through what Joseph Campbell references as or refers to as the hero's journey. It's the denial of the call. It's a denial, like, and I've gone through all of these emotions of initially being totally asleep, having certain urges, having certain things that didn't quite feel like it was in order, but it was like, huh, and then you just go on with your day, go on with your life. From there, realizing, okay, something about me is different. I don't know what it is, but something about me is different. Then you start to like feel a surge in power. Like I am different. Like, okay, baby, let's go. Like you just feel motivated and you just, yes, I'm the one. But when it get real, when you start to really move into what that means, because saying it is one thing. When you step into it, you come to realize, oh my God, no, I
mhm,
really am powerful. And you got to figure out how to manage that. Like, how do I manage all of this power? And that's when the running comes. Like, no, thank you. It's a little bit more than I was asking for. Okay. I thought I was just, feeling good and, hyping up and motivating. And I like, well, no, thank you. But the
mhm,
running is when you really go toe to toe with yourself, when you
mhm,
look you in the mirror
mhm,
And this is what we get from a lot of our relationships and experiences. This is why I can't throw nothing away. I take what is offered and use it because I know everything. This is a world of co-creation. So that if you come into my experience, I come into your experience, there's co-creation that's happening. It can't be wrong. It's something I needed in that. I came before it came before me for a reason. So I gotta look and see what is that showing me. And the people oftentimes that we tussle with the most are usually, oh, the clearest mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that, because some people get tripped up with this. Like, what you trying to tell me I was with this horrible, shitty person? You trying to tell me that I was just seeing myself? You trying to say I'm a horrible and shitty person? That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, it could be now. Could
Right.
be. Could be. But that's not what I'm saying. A reflection is every part of you. It's showing you not only how you see yourself, but how you see the world and what
Mm-hmm.
you expect. When you expect the evil, when you expect the hardships, when you expect challenges, when you expect worst case scenario and the worst parts of people, like I just knew it. Yeah, because you can't trust people. The real ones always get taken advantage of. That's your expectation.
Right.
That's programming that you got. That's a
Mm-hmm.
belief that you've instilled within yourself. So sometimes people are reflecting that.
Right.
And that's up to you to say, to really dive in and say, why does shape me like this? Why does disturb me? Now, some people you got to just move away from and you can analyze later.
Mm-hmm. No,
You got
seriously.
to move out of certain away from certain people, out of certain environments expeditiously.
Yeah.
Then you can like, okay, what was it? You might at some point it comes full circle to you to understand what that experience was about. But a lot of times, when you're not able to move as quickly as you would like, because I've worked with people like, Brooke, my household is tense, man. Like I'm the only one and that cares about these things, who thinks like this, and I can't at this moment leave. Okay. Then you got to change you, brother,
Mm-hmm.
sister. Like you got to create a cocoon around yourself. This is when you really, and I find such honor in being in these positions because now it's showtime.
Mm.
You got to find out what you really made of. You got to find out, and I think it's so powerful because you wouldn't dig that deep if the environment wasn't that intense.
Right.
Right, you would like when it gets really bad, you get real intentional. Like, I gotta get up earlier. I need
Mm-hmm.
to spend some time with me before these niggas get up. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like on Saturdays, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go out to the park, and you get real intentional about getting one-on-one with you. And you just wouldn't do that without that pressure, without
Mm-hmm.
that tension, you wouldn't do it.
Right.
So
Right.
I see the usefulness in it.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. And that's why, like I said, in hindsight, I laugh. When I was going through those times, there was nothing funny at
No,
all.
no.
But in hindsight, I realized that all that contrast was to help show me what I did not want and to really solidify and to help me from, feeling that, well, maybe I can, or let me just, one thing specifically that has been a real journey for me is my weight. Because when I graduated from college, I was 255 pounds and I'm only 5'6". So I was extremely overweight. I was going through depression. Um, I was just not having a good time in life. And part of the beginning of my journey, one of the biggest things was getting my body right. And so that's when I started plant-based eating and doing yoga and doing fasted cardio and just doing all these things with my body. And I've realized that kind of like when you spoke on kind of that heaviness in your mind when all that starts coming up, and I've realized that when my mind is heavy, it's like I subconsciously do something to make my body match the vibration. When I'm feeling low, everything needs to be low to match. And it's not like I'm intentionally like, I don't feel that well, let me eat and gain a bunch of weight, you know. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, if when my mind is low like that, everything kind of starts going. And there were points of time, especially now, when we talked about there's something you said along the lines of us being our biggest critics, and it's the expectation that we had. So I've been off social media since September. So when this comes out, this will be the first time I'm showing my face for like over 6 months, I guess. And part of me was like, there's no way that I'm about to go on looking like this because I've gained weight since September. And the thing is, it hasn't been linear. It's been up and down. I've done a 3 week raw fast. We did 40 days of raw
Mm-hmm.
fasting.
Yep.
So there's been times that I did exceptional things, but at this point, this is where I am right now. And part of me was ashamed to come back on, especially because on social media, I talk about my journey and I talk about growth and I talk about eating healthy and what that's done for me. And I'm like, how could you go back on there after being gone for so long? You should be like looking bright, and you should be this and you should be that, and you're just going to come on there looking overweight, and people are going to be, well, I thought that you were changed, I thought that you were conscious and all that. And that was me having all these thoughts about myself. But the thing is, that's part of the reason why I want to do this and to have these conversations, is because this is not me being off my path. This is all part of my journey. I was called, before I first started losing weight, I was called to like document the process. And I'm like, I don't want a camera in my face. I'm not trying to be at the gym setting up the camera and running and stuff like that. So I didn't listen. And that was a calling that was not from the mind. And I didn't listen to that. And I'm not saying I gained weight because I didn't show people how I lost weight. Maybe that is it. I'm not saying directly that that's it, but just the fact that the journey is not always going to look like what we think it's going to look like, but that doesn't mean that it's not our journey. Sometimes it is, because somebody needs to learn from that. I believe that I am motivation for those people that they felt that calling. They knew they were the one. They knew that they were special, because I always have since I was younger. And there's a song that Kanye West has called Streetlights. And I love that song. And he says, let me know, do I still have time to grow? Things aren't always set in stone. Let me know. And then he says, streetlights glowing happen to be just like moments passing in front of me. So I hopped in the cab and I paid my fare. See, I know my destination, I'm just not there. And that part always got to me, because it's like we see where we want to be. We don't know what streets or what stoplights might happen on the way, what accidents might happen on the way, but we know. And it's about staying right here and knowing. And that's why, even though right now, like I'm fat right now and I'm okay with that, not okay with that to the point where I'm just gonna keep gaining weight, but I'm okay with that because I know that this is where I am right now. And you have to start where you are to get to where you want to be. So I like that we've covered and talked about today the the journey, the journey overall, the fact that when you have that calling, you are tasked with the opportunity, I'll say, to make a change. And just because you don't make the change at that time, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was the right time or the wrong time, but just to deal with divine timing, just to kind of sit back and think to yourself, actually, maybe not even think, because the mind is kind of what gets us there. So to feel your way, maybe feel your way, because if you're someone like me that thinks a lot, then maybe you need to do a little bit less thinking and a lot more feeling. Because, like I mentioned, a lot of the time, what I'm thinking gets in the way of what my soul is calling me to do. So I just wanted to show this part. I didn't want to cut off this part of my journey, this part of like coming from like a lower or dark. I need to find a better way to phrase it. An unexpected place to, and then that's another thing. There's not a necessarily, I'm not trying to like get back to a specific point, because I'm going to go beyond whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is. And I feel like when we have it in our minds of like, oh, well, I used to be 180 pounds. Let me get back to 180 pounds. If I said it right, that what if I'm supposed to be 175 or 185 and with a bunch of muscles or something like that? So just knowing that you want to evolve, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
you will, believing that you will, um, and staying on the path that will. It's so funny because as I speak, sometimes I'm already rephrasing,
You
like
can
as
hear,
it's coming out of my mouth. I'm like, wait, no, 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 no. So, yeah, but just knowing, because I've known since I was younger that I was destined for greatness, that I was different and such. And as my life experiences up to this point have informed me of what I should aim to do, or what I believe
Mm-hmm.
or what I should believe I should have, and things of that nature. It's very, very interesting just seeing how much I have evolved just within the past 4 years, and what my goals are and how my mind works as well. So it's constant. It's a constant growth and evolution, every day. Yeah. I
And
feel
it's
like I just did
fun.
a loop de loop and
No, it's fun. Like I think part of it, we forget the just enjoyment.
yes.
Like if I just stop tripping, like
Mm,
stop tripping. Like just stop tripping. Like just that be still and know.
mm,
Like because I think it at your core of core, even when you start talking about working on your body and getting back to ideal, weight and fitness, and your spirit knows. Like when you say, I want to be, because I think this was really my one statement. I think it was like 2014 when everything was just going to hell. I was like, I want one, I'm gonna set one intention. I'm tired of New Year's resolutions. I just want one intention. And that intention is to be my best mentally, physically, and spiritually. I want to be my best. I didn't really have a framework for what that looked like, right? I just put that out there as a starting point. You, spirit, me, you know what my best is, right? So I trust that we in sync, baby. Just, I'm simply saying by way of affirming and by setting an intention is that I am now open to receive. That's what I'm saying. I don't think, thinking, pondering, I mean, meditation, when you really think about it, you look at the technical definition of it, is contemplation, right? And it's through the act of meditation that you you're led into a state of stillness, of oneness, where
mm,
mind dissipates. But it is the act of contemplation that can move you into that. Just like you go outside and you just kind of stare up at the sky or stare at the birds, or
mhm,
you see some kids playing and everything goes blank. You don't think about what day it is, what year it is. You don't think about money. All you're doing is just kind of observing those children playing and laughing. That's meditation.
mhm,
That's meditation. So I'm like you. I have these tendencies for the mind to run wild because I have an inquisitive mind. But what about? Well, why is this doing this? And why is this? What about? And I think for those of us who have that tendency, We got to remember sometimes to just get up, just move, just move. And then let through the movement, the clarification to come.
Mm-hmm.
And then not to trip over what that movement led you to, or what it resulted in.
Right.
Like, listen, I felt these are my decisions. Like, nobody can hold my decisions over me because they were mine. And I made them because at the time I felt like they were the best decisions to make. So you can't hold me on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we hold ourselves to it. If there is no enemy within, the enemy without cannot do me any harm.
Right.
That's what we're tasked with tackling. The what people want to blame the devil. The devil is you. You the devil. Those inner thoughts that go against your perfection, that's evil. That's sin. Every time you move yourself out of perfection, every time you move yourself away from greatness, every time you move yourself from all of the wonderful possibilities of life, you sin.
Mm.
You sin. So it's you. And how do you repent? How do you get salvation? Through a change in mind. You repent by, that's what repenting means. I'm sorry to tell you. No, you don't get on your knees and beg to some other person, please forgive me. No, you have to have a change in mind. So I stop chastising myself. I stop punishing me. I stop sentencing me to hell because I'm not doing what I thought and I'm not meeting up to whatever. And this conversation, excuse me, is totally different from having physical standards, having a physical structure in life. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that inner warfare where we beat ourselves down because we doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that we doubt? Our power. We really doubt. I think that the more I've been trying to comb through it and really dial it down, it's like, it's really the power. I think the closer, the more conscious you become, the more awakenings that you have, you get closer and closer and closer to a full expression of your true power. And the
Mm.
closer you get to it, it scare the hell out of you.
Mm.
That it really is me. That's what we're working through, the self-concept. Because when you believe I'm the baddest mofo that walked this planet, this is my universe. I can't, it's impossible for me not to get my heart's desire. If you operate with that mindset, oh, it don't matter what go on.
Mm-mm.
When you said you made a comment earlier and you were like, when things happen to you, initially, you was like, I laugh at it now, but then I wasn't laughing. You gonna know when you really crossed over, when hiccups like that, and you encounter them again and you do laugh then.
Right.
You ain't gotta come out of it and look back and laugh. You
Right.
laugh like, oh, that's what you thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm judging no longer by appearances. The appearances can't move me no more. The circumstance can't move me no more. Right? The challenge can't move me no more. Because I know I'm one with everything. So you just showing me, oh, that was a reflection. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, let me show you what I give you back. I don't even acknowledge it. So looking in the mirror, I see my body. Yeah, I can see these two eyes. I don't even acknowledge I see perfection.
Mm.
I see, and it can be, and I told the fellas this, like, it can be whatever you want it to be. If you want bigger arms, then that's what you need to see. I love my new biceps. They're phenomenal. My new triceps type thing. So anyway, um, it's all good. I think that's the message. It's all
Yes.
good. Everything is all good.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we close out, I do want to touch back on something that you just mentioned because some people listening to this, maybe, and myself included, it has to be a balance between that delusion, which I'm okay with being delusional or
Hmm.
appearing delusional. I was talking to my friend about water yesterday, and I spoke about having a well and having water that will never run out. And he said, "Oh no, the next war is going to be fought over water because people are using up all the groundwater." And I haven't done much research on the topic, so maybe I was sounding a certain way, but I said, my water's not going to run out. And he said, "Oh, your well will never run dry." And he's laughing. And I'm like, that's correct. And he thought I was joking, but I'm like, no, I will always have water. This earth will always provide water for me. So, with something like that, I can say with certainty, I believe that wherever I build my house and I get my well water, that water will just replenish. I believe that. However, when it comes to something like weight, something that is ingrained in me, and there's some past traumas and all that stuff that I am shedding away from and rising above those past stories that have to do with that. I wouldn't say that I'm at a point yet where I can look in the mirror at how I look right now and say, "Oh, I love my," I can say it, but it doesn't all the way resonate with me to just say it and then still go eat some pizza or eat, and I'm not saying that you should balance like that, but I still, how I am right now and where my belief is at, I don't want there to be that much discord. So I can say that, but I still need to go to the gym. I still need to eat right. I still need to do the things that support that. And what I'm hearing is, and what I believe is, there comes a certain point where the physical, you reach a certain point of power where the physical is not going to matter per se, because you can go from here and directly make that happen in reality or in this 3D reality.
Hmm.
So, what would be, I would say, a few tips that you would give for those who are not there yet? And what are some things that they can do to help diminish some of these doubts that they may have of where they are at in their life or their journey?
Well, I wouldn't focus on diminishing the doubts.
Mm.
I wouldn't focus on the doubts at all. Where
Mm.
attention goes, energy flows.
Yes.
So I'm not even acknowledging the doubts, right? I'm not acknowledging my deficiencies,
Mm.
right? I'm not ignoring them. I'm just turning my attention from them altogether.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'm honing in on what I know to be true, right? And I know at my core, I came from perfection. So it's like saying a dog can birth a cat. It's a little strange. Haven't seen that happen, right? Two dogs get together and they birth a cat. Really? Like I am the divine. I come from the divine. I come from absolute perfection. The same power that created the body is the power that transforms the body, the power that heals the body. So I'm honing in on what I know to be true. And this is where meditation is very helpful, because you start to incorporate throughout the day, the beginning of your day, before you go to bed, you're impressing upon the subconscious. You're leaving this reality. That's the intention. Now,
Mm.
when you first start, may or may not, right? But the intention is to take my thoughts off this physical reality, off this physical world, and move into the quantum realm. And in the quantum realm, yeah, it's absolute perfection. So I'm gonna move into a space of doubling down and tripling down. I'm saturating my mind with what I know to be true. Right now, a couple people, some people debate about what's the best way to approach this. Can you override, even if you have like thoughts that just you start to tell yourself that, you know, I'm in optimal health, my body's in, I'm so fit, right? You start to tell yourself I'm so fit, I love my body, and you start to feel like, girl, no, you ain't. Girl, no, you not. Why you seeing lying? You can't even put your jeans on the other day. All right. Now, some people would say, well, dial it back,
Hmm.
right? Go broader with it. focus more on feeling good, focus more on your connection to nature, and then allow that to ease you into that statement. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one way.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we are a product of our thoughts and our beliefs. What is a belief? A thought you keep thinking over and over and over again.
Right.
So you can shift that. The tension is coming up because your body right now is acting as the mind. Is that because this program? That's what a program means.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting in the car and driving. Have you ever driven somewhere and you remember leaving the house, you get in the car, and a few minutes pass, and you be like, damn, was I paying attention? Like, I don't remember passing the McDonald's. I don't remember passing, like, I know I'm not distracted. I'm not on the phone. I'm not doing anything, but you don't remember like driving through the lights. Like, damn, did I run the light or did I?
Right.
Your body is trained. It's acting as the mind. So when you now insert a new thought, that's what an affirmation is. The body like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Starts to short circuit.
Right.
I'm now under the belief that it is helpful to still continue to saturate, to
Mm-hmm.
saturate, to saturate, to saturate. I'm reminding myself, right, that this is who I know this is who I am. I know this is who I am. I know this is who I am. I know that this is the truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not focusing on what I'm doubtful in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
focusing on what I'm powerful in,
Right.
what I'm certain in,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm certain that I know exactly what to do. I'm
Right.
certain that my body knows best. I'm certain that my body adjusts by way of what it is getting from me. And as I give it different things, it then adjusts accordingly. It
Mm-hmm.
responds accordingly. So I know I ain't warring with my body. It's always acting as an aid. And truth be told, even when it comes to the body, everything is good. When you start thinking about things like a tumor is the body's way of taking and collecting toxic waste, right?
Mm-hmm.
And isolating it.
Right.
It would like to break it down and eliminate it. It's unable to do that. So it says, let's collect it. So that's still right, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that a bad thing? When we start looking at excess weight, it's a holding on. It's our body responding to a holding on. So was it wrong? Like, am I mad at the fact? No, I let the fact, listen, I appreciate you being able to adjust according to my needs.
Mm.
Now, my needs have changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? I salute you on your way out.
Yes.
So really this dialogue, and you may find yourself bouncing back and forth, and you might just say, look, I just can't find no sense of ease when I tell myself these things. Then you got to take your attention off of it altogether. And you got to do what you suggested. I'm going to lean into cleaning up my diet. I'm going to bring in electrical fruits and foods, and I'm going to get to walking because those things help get me into a state of ease. And then as I start to develop more in that, now I'm going to revisit
Mm.
conversing with myself again. Because sometimes we got to coach ourselves into loving ourselves. Our self is not used to hearing from us, not in a
Right.
positive way, not in a
Mm-hmm.
powerful way, right? So trust that you'll know what you need to do when you need to do it. But I would really, I'm all for saturation, 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 like, and do it almost obsessively to a point where you think it's over the top. What am I saying to myself all day long? What
Mm-hmm.
am I? And the reason why the affirmations in the beginning feel so agitating is because we're saying the opposite of that all day long.
Right.
So now you want to insert, oh, I'm healthy. My body's so strong. And Your body like, what? Girl, we done fell off the wagon. We are
Mm-hmm.
behind. We done went backwards. Look at how much progress we done lost. We
Mm.
were supposed to be better than this. We was teaching other people, and now look at us. We are fraud. That's what circulates. So if all is mind and the universe is mental, which I always come back to, it's my mind and how I'm thinking. It's my mind and how I'm thinking. Is what I'm expecting, is what I'm assuming. So, robotic affirmation, when I just start to get into this routine of, I'm going to keep my attention on it. Like, we got to think about the basics that we tell ourselves. We say
Mm.
where attention goes, energy flows.
Right.
Put your attention on what you want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Put your attention on what you want to build, what you want to enhance. You want to enhance your self concept. Let me put my attention there until it hardens into fact, until I feel a sense of ease. And coming back to the practice of meditation, like when you go out and you just feel like you kind of go out of your mind, even for just a moment, that's the moment when you, okay, yeah, you start to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you start to remember this. All this whole cycle is a process of remembering who you are,
Yeah.
remembering your power, remembering that you're not less than, you're not deficient, right? You're not, slow. Or I had to tell my daughter this, and she was talking about a class she was struggling with. I'm like, you got to stop looking at it like other people are just so much smarter. No,
Right.
no. There's other people go into a task with the mindset that whatever it is, I'm gonna figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna figure it out. If it can be figured out, I'm gonna figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Les Brown says anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until I figure out how to do it well.
Yes.
If you go into it with that mindset, right? You can not how you not gonna get what you want? It's
Right.
impossible. Because your
Exactly.
mind is not framed for anything other than that. So yeah, I wouldn't spend any time on the doubt. The hell with the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Doubtful thoughts, start trying to fight them because they're gonna win. I'm gonna tell you that. Because you
Definitely.
fueling them. That's
Mm-hmm.
why you become the battery.
For those things that you claim you don't want.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Wow. Yes. And a point that I want to kind of drive home per se is the fact that we have all this power. There are people that have changed their lives in one day, in a matter of
Yes.
minutes, you know?
Listen. Mm.
And we can do that too. What makes them any different than us? You know, we have the power. And I remember a couple years back, or it might have been last, no, I think it was 2022 when we had spoken. And I know we're gonna, okay, I'm looking at the clock. um, so we had spoken, and I had this very emotional, I had this big release, this emotional release, and I had a visual, and I felt so trapped. I felt as if I was in jail, in a jail cell, and I pictured myself literally like I saw myself in this jail cell, and I felt so much anger for just the walls around me that were keeping me trapped, anger for the guard that is just like swinging the keys around the finger. And I'm like, you have the power. I'm looking at the guard like, you have the power to just let me go and liberate my whole life right now. And I just felt so much anger for this guard that's just free out there, just living the life and just out there, could do whatever they want, and I'm just in here trapped. And then the guard turns her head and looks at me and has a smirk on her face, and the guard is me.
I was about to say it. I was about to say
The
it.
guard is me. And the thing is, I had this feel like I had this, and I had this visualization, and I had this big release over this thing. And then um I was watching an interview of David Goggins, and he said something so similar that I'm like, was this man listening to our conversation? But I say that to explain and to kind of close on the fact that David Goggins has done amazing things. I think he's the only person that has gone through like the Army Ranger School and the Marines and the
Mhm.
other. He's done and he was like over 300 pounds. He's now like, I don't know how much he weighs, but he is strong and fit, and he runs like every day, 5, 20 miles. But he's done all those things, and he felt trapped in a jail cell the same way that I felt. So if we both have that feeling, we both also have the ability to go further. The only difference is he's done it and I haven't. So I just want to make sure that we all know, and as I'm speaking to others, I'm speaking to myself as well, that we have the power to change our lives. And we've always had that power, even when we felt disconnected, or even when we felt trapped or in a dark place or anything like that. And it just comes down to what we do with the knowledge that we receive. So
It's a choice.
it really is.
It's a choice. It's either faith or fear. It's either fear or love. It's either, you know what I mean? Like I think that's what it's really simple. I know we can dissect it and break it down, but it's a choice. Like you look at your life right now and you just decide, am I going to be pitiful or am I going to be powerful? That's a choice that we all get to make every single day. Everybody has experiences. Everybody got stories. Everybody got scenario. You know, and we like to try to downplay other people's. Well, it ain't as bad as this. Well, it ain't it. Well, yeah, to you, because you want it and you didn't live it. But everybody's experience is real to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a choice, like
Right.
to believe that you stuck or not, to believe that you can't do it, to believe that you've exhausted all the possibilities, to believe that you got to live normal, whatever the hell that is, like everybody else. It's a choice. Like, what do I choose for myself? And I remember hearing this when I was just having this intense awakening back in 2014. And my spirit just said to me, there's only one way you won't get what you after. There's only one way you won't do it. And it said, that's if you quit. That's it. You to determine, and that's why I keep coming back to it's our power that we're afraid of. Because if you would internalize what that means, then all I have to do is have unwavering and unequivocal belief in myself. No doubt. Like if I just go crazy, like whoever it is that I think about, a person that you believe in a lot, that you trust a lot, that if I could do that for with myself, if I saw me in that light, that's all I got to do. That's all I'm tasked with doing. To see me as the ultimate. I cannot lose. It's impossible. I cannot get it wrong. I can't be off track. Like I can't be threatened. I can't be a victim. Like it's impossible for me to be a victim. I don't like when certain people try to make me a victim. Like, how you gonna tell me? Well, when you experience so and so, like, bro, I'm telling you, I don't care what I experience. You can't tell me I'm a victim because of that. No, maybe it wasn't the best, right? It wasn't ideal, but it was mine. It's mine's. Don't try to take what's mine. It was mine's to go through, to experience.
Right.
And I got something from that. So you're asking me to dishonor what I received gifts from. I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm unwilling to do that. So I think that if we just keep it simple with where am I right now? Where am I? Like, let me look, like, am I satisfied with this reality? Am I satisfied with this version of me? Yes, no, okay, no. All right, what's the choice?
Right.
Are you gonna move or are you not? Are you
Mm-hmm.
gonna stay where you are? Or are you not? Are you gonna leave the old behind? Or are you not? What is it worth to you? Like the life that you're after, the passion that you're after, the desire that you're after, what is it worth to you? Now, for those of the chosen among us, so to speak, the untouchable, so to speak, life gonna get on your ass and it's gonna stay on it until you get in position. And the more that you have called, or the greater that you have called for yourself, the hotter that fire gonna get. And it's a good thing, because the fire is a purifier. It purifies. It cleanses. All right. Sometimes some things need to be burned all the way down to the ground. We don't need to renovate it. No, just burn that sucker down, start all over. So I think that that's the takeaway. Like, it's a choice. It's a choice. I get a choice every single day. Even feeling pitiful, even depressed, even when you're going through an intense state of feeling like, oh, I'm just in a depressed state, it's still a choice. It's so crazy. I had told myself, like, I've watched myself. You were talking about the observer effect. And I've watched myself, like, just literally almost like I'm in the corner watching me, like, this is interesting to see you behave this way. It's interesting to see you respond like this. At any moment you could reframe this. At any moment you could see this differently. At any moment you could just change your thought. That's all you got to do. But you so beholden to the old. You so beholden to the familiar, right? And I've said that. I've been in dialogue with myself. Like, I don't want to hear that right now. I don't want to hear that right now. Okay. I'm pissed off, and I'm pissed off, and I want to stay pissed off. And I know how I could not be pissed off, but I just want to be pissed off right now, type thing. But it's just crazy when you break it down. Like, you could just not think this thought. You could just think another thought. You could just think that was not their intention. That wasn't their intention. You're making assumptions that you shouldn't be making right now. And that's why you feel the way you feel. So it's a choice. Life is a choice. How you gonna live it? That's what you got to figure out.
Mm, that is what you got to figure out. So, thank you so much, Rook. This has been a
My
wonderful
pleasure.
conversation. And there are more to come. I want to close out by reading this poem. Well, it's a passage from a book called A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And I think some of us have heard the beginning of this quote at least, but I'm just going to read this passage. It's a little bit longer. And it reads, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
I love it. I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
indeed.
It's our
Indeed.
power. Yep.
So I know I said I was going to read that to close, but I actually want to close with, do you have, out of what we've spoken about today, is there a challenge that you would like to give you, yourself, and myself within the next week?
Um, you know, I still come back to the whole idea of making a choice. Like, really, like, sit down and really have a conversation with yourself, right? Because most of us know when we've been half stepping.
Mm-hmm.
We know. Most of us know when we've not given 100%. I would challenge us to really ask that question. Have we taken the leap?
Mm-hmm.
Have we said yes to the best? That's my new thing. I've been just circling that in my head. I'm Rook the Great, baby, and I only say yes to the best.
Mm,
And maybe that's the question. Am I willing to say yes to the best?
mm,
That's the best life, the best possibilities, the best thoughts, right? My greatest desires. Because our willingness is the holdup.
mm, mm.
The willingness to just say yes. It's easier to say no. And I'm being really stressed on some things right now. And a couple things have come to me this past week, and I'm like, come on, bro, don't tell me this ain't the direction you taking me in, because you know I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I come back to that question. Are you willing to say yes to the best? And this requires you to move in a space that makes you uncomfortable and vulnerable, right? And it goes against your own philosophy, right? That ain't what I do, bro. You know what I mean? That
Right.
philosophy. Yeah, nah. It don't take all that. I ain't got to do it. So, are you willing to say yes to the best? And what does that look like? Like when, and that's what you got to think about, even when you looking at your body. Like you got to be able to say yes, coming into, and it comes back to a sense of worthiness, self-concept, how I see myself. Because you got to feel worthy of being loved.
Mm,
Some people don't see it. Like if I see my deficiencies, I see that, you know, I don't do this that well. I know I got a little, trauma with this and that. You don't feel worthy of someone really loving you in this highest form, right? Same thing comes with our bodies. Same thing comes with opportunities. So am I willing to say yes to my best? And what does that look like?
mm.
Like, what is that? What areas? And sometimes it's best to even just focus on one thing to start off with. Like,
Right.
what is one thing that I want to say yes to my best in? What is one particular area that I'm saying, all right, this right here, and I kind of got an idea of what mine is that I like, I love so much my space. All right. I'm a private person. I like a lot of alone time, solitude. And so I'm getting this push to say, okay, come on. Right. I got to go a little bit beyond that, which I have heard this for the past few years. Enjoy the time. Enjoy the time while you have it.
Mm,
Because when things really start moving, you're going to appreciate it. So the me in me says, I don't want to do all of that. I've never wanted to be in no limelight. I've never wanted to be on no front stage. I've never, ever. It's just not who I am. It goes against, all right? And coming back to that mind and what we have seen for ourselves.
mhm,
But everything in me, the same way other things, I had urgings and everything in me was saying, go this direction. Everything in me is saying, that ain't how you gonna play this.
mm.
No, your best is saying you got to step forward
Yeah.
in a way that you haven't before. You think you have. You kind of been doing a little something. You don't been doing a little something, something. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a good. I think that's a good starter.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's a good starter.
it is for sure. Mm. I was going to say a lot to think about.
But I mean, I think that's the start though. Like
Mhm.
when I say really, you do got to give a little bit of thought to it.
Yeah.
Like, damn, what is first, what is like my best? Okay, when it comes to what? Like in what areas? Um, so I don't have a problem with the thinking part. I think that could be step one. Step two is the now I release it and I say, you showed me exactly. This is what I came up with. I got a kind of a list. You direct me
Mhm.
in okay, this is the focal right here. This is the
Right.
focal point right
Right.
here. And it's so interesting because in my meditation last night, I got directed to do two things. And after I finished, it was late. And I was like, okay, make sure you write it down, make sure you write it down, make sure you write it down. And I was like, well, let me just put it in my phone. And I was already tired and I ended up falling asleep. So now I'm saying, okay, bring back to me the second one because
Mm.
it escapes me at the moment what that second thing was. But you will get divine direction,
Yes.
right? You ask, and ask just means desire. I desire to know what's the best next step for me.
Mm-hmm.
I see like 50 steps I could possibly take. That's what I can see with my mind. My view is limited. You got bird's eye view.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I can't see what's going on 2 miles down the street.
Right.
I can't see what's going on a damn half a mile down the street, a quarter mile down the street. I can't from here, I can't see it.
Mm.
So when we ask for divine guidance, we're saying you got the all-seeing eye. I'm communicating with you what I see from my limited viewpoint. Now
Right.
you give me what's you up there in the helicopter, you up there in the drone. You saying, hey, no, no, don't go down Route 12. Now they
Right.
back up over there.
Mm-hmm.
I-95, yeah, no, they got an accident type. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So the thinking, you setting the thing in motion, see what comes up for you, then the letting go, and then the allowing.
Mm.
All right, bet, bet, bet. Okay, cool. This is what I wanna hone in on right now.
Right.
Um, and like I said, I think for some of us, it's just some things are inevitable.
Right.
Some things are inevitable that we set
Definitely.
into motion before we even came into this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I
Remembering
know
that we
exactly what you
consciousness
mean.
now, we are consciousness. Your consciousness didn't just start when you came in this physical body, this lifetime. So there are certain things that have already been in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And you just now got to be in a position to receive that.
Indeed.
And that's that saying yes, that, bro, tell me this ain't the direction you taking me. Oh God, really? Yikes. Cause but yes, if I trust that inner wisdom, okay, that's the best. So I'm gonna say yes to the best. I'm gonna lean into that. All right, let's go. Let's fully go. And that's the last thing I'm gonna say, because I had uh, a good homie of mine brought this question up to me, and we got to get our schedules together because I'm gonna have him on to do an interview. But about 5 years ago, we met up and we were doing more brainstorming, like goals of what we wanted to do. And he's a content creator. He does this or that, and I was just talking about the phase that I was in at that time. I was like, I just feel like I've been in a straitjacket. And I just feel like I
Mm.
can't be contained anymore. Like nothing can contain me. And I was like, I've gotten to the point where I had to jump, right? And, as women, we get to talking, da 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 da. And he kind of just stopped me dead in my tracks. He said, "But have you really jumped though?"
Mm.
And it just took the breath out of me, like, and I sat with it for a second. I was like, wow, maybe I haven't.
Mm.
Maybe I've gotten close to the edge, but damn, maybe I haven't. And I thought about that question for the past 5 years. Have you really jumped? And you already know, if you got to ask the question, you already know the answer.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
you got to ask the question, baby, you already know the answer.
Right.
So even now, I can honestly, genuinely tell you, I got 2 toes still on the cliff. Two
Mm.
toes still. I done pulled everything off, but it's like them two toes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That complete close your eyes. It reminds me of the dreams I used to have as a little girl where I was just falling and
Mm.
falling and falling and falling. Like that leap where you leave everything behind. Like, you know what? F the fear, F the doubts, F the what abouts, and, how am I going to respond to this? And, you know, jump. So, yes to the best.
Yes
Are,
to the best.
are you willing to say yes to the best?